First Contact's Price. Captain Elena Santos stood at the observation deck of the TDF Hyperion, Earth's most advanced deep space vessel, watching the starfield before her with practiced calm. 20 years of space exploration had taught her to maintain composure even in the most extraordinary circumstances, but nothing in those years had prepared her for what the long-range sensors were now telling her. "Captain, confirmation on those readings," Lieutenant Park's voice carried across the bridge, steady despite the tension. "The anomaly is expanding at an exponential rate. Whatever's coming through, it's big." The tear in space-time had appeared without warning at the edge of the Sol system, just beyond Neptune's orbit. At first, the scientific community had been ecstatic, a natural phenomenon that could revolutionize their understanding of space-time. That excitement had lasted exactly 6 hours, until the first signals began emerging from the rift. "Multiple contacts," Park announced, his hands dancing across the holographic interface. "Initial count suggests over 3,000 objects, varying in size from Corvette to Dreadnought class. Energy signatures unlike anything in our database." Elena's jaw tightened. Humanity had encountered alien life before. Peaceful traders from the Centauri Alliance, curious explorers from the Rigel Collective. But this was different. "Get me a direct line to Fleet Command. Priority Alpha." Before Park could acknowledge the order, the ship's AI, Araya, manifested her avatar beside Elena. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission. It's being broadcast on all frequencies, in all known languages. Put it through." The message that filled the bridge wasn't in words. It was a sensation, a psychic bombardment that made every crew member's skin crawl. Images of worlds burning, civilizations falling, and an endless hunger that consumed everything in its path. The Nexus Swarm, as they would later be named, wasn't interested in diplomacy. "Battle stations," Elena ordered, her voice cutting through the paralyzed silence that followed the transmission. "And get me that link to command." The next 48 hours became known as the Long Night. The swarm, moving with impossible coordination, bypassed the outer system defenses as if they weren't there. The TDF's most advanced weapons seemed to barely scratch their biomechanical ships. It was like fighting against a force of nature, an unstoppable tide of destruction. But humanity had one advantage the swarm hadn't counted on: desperation bred innovation. During the height of the battle, Dr. Sarah Chen, lead scientist at the Lunar Defense Research Institute, made a discovery that would change everything. The swarm's ships weren't just coordinated. They were connected, sharing a collective consciousness that made them devastatingly efficient, but also predictable to those who knew where to look. Their neural network operates on quantum principles, she explained to the Emergency Council of Earth's leaders. But there's a pattern to their chaos. More importantly, there's a reason they chose our system for their invasion. The holographic display showed the galactic map, with Earth highlighted in red. We're not their primary target. We're an obstacle. Earth sits at a crucial junction point between the older, more developed regions of the galaxy and the younger civilizations just beginning to reach for the stars. We're literally the only thing standing between the swarm and dozens of species that have no way to defend themselves. Fleet Admiral James Chen, no relation to Dr. Chen, leaned forward, his weathered face illuminated by the hologram. "You're saying we didn't draw their attention. Our position did." "Exactly. And that's why we can't fall back, can't evacuate. Earth isn't just our home. It's the front line in a war most of the galaxy doesn't even know is coming." The casualties mounted. The lunar colonies fell. Mars went dark. But Earth's defenders had something the swarm hadn't encountered in their long journey across the cosmos: human unpredictability. While other species might have tried to match the swarm's technological superiority, humanity chose a different path. Operation Bulwark was born in those desperate hours. A plan so audacious that it seemed impossible, yet it was exactly the kind of impossible that humans specialized in. They would turn Earth's entire solar system into a trap, using the very predictability of the swarm against them. As the first phase of bulwark began, Alina found herself back on the bridge of the Hyperion, now scared and patched from countless battles. All ships, this is Captain Santos. Operation Bulwark is now active. Remember your training. Remember what we're fighting for. And remember, they may be a hive mind, but we're a family. Humanity stands together. The response came from every vessel in the fleet, a chorus of determination that echoed across space. Together we stand. As the swarm approached for what they thought would be their final assault, they encountered something they had never experienced in all their conquests. An enemy that smiled in the face of impossible odds. An enemy that had turned their entire solar system into a weapons platform. An enemy that had, in just a few short days, revolutionized their understanding of warfare itself. The battle that followed would be remembered as the beginning of humanity's finest hour. But for Alina and her crew, standing on the bridge of the Hyperion as the first wave of swarm ships entered their trap, it was simply about survival, about protecting not just their own species, but all the younger races that would never know how close they came to extinction. "Commence Operation Bulwark," Alina ordered, her voice steady. "Let's show them why you should never corner a species that named their first spacecraft after their gods." The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath as humanity prepared to make its stand. The war for survival had begun, but so had something else. The moment when humanity would prove why they deserved their place among the stars. The Innovation Protocol. Humanity had always prided itself on its ability to adapt. But in the weeks following first contact with the Nexus swarm, that ability was pushed to its absolute limit. Deep within the reinforced bunkers of the Lunar Defense Research Institute's backup facility on Earth, Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the holographic display showing the latest battle data. The room hummed with the sound of quantum processors working at full capacity, analyzing every encounter with the swarm, searching for patterns in the chaos. "Show me the neural pattern analysis again," she commanded. The AI complied, filling the air with intricate webs of light, representing the swarm's communication networks. Something was there, just at the edge of understanding. The swarm ships moved with perfect coordination, yes, but there was more to it than that. "Doctor," her assistant Marcus called from his station, "you need to see this. Remember those anomalous readings we detected during the Jupiter defense?" Sarah moved to his station, her eyes widening as she processed the data. "They're not just communicating. They're learning, evolving. Each engagement makes them stronger." But there was something else in the data, something that had been overlooked in the initial analysis. During certain engagements, particularly those involving smaller, more maneuverable human ships, the swarm's responses showed microscopic delays. Hesitations so brief they were almost imperceptible. "Get me Captain Santos," Sarah demanded, her fingers flying across the holographic interface. "I think I've found something." The connection was established within moments. Alina's face appeared on the main screen, bearing new scars, but unchanged determination. "Dr. Chen, please tell me you have good news." "Better than good, Captain. I think I've found their weakness. The swarm's greatest strength, their hive mind. It's also their vulnerability. They can't process true randomness. Their neural network is so vast, so complex, that it requires patterns to function efficiently." Alina leaned forward, hope flickering in her eyes. "And how does that help us?" "Because humans are inherently unpredictable. Our neural patterns, our decision-making processes, they're chaotic by their very nature. If we can amplify that chaos, make it impossible for them to predict our movements, we can disrupt their entire battle strategy," Alina finished. "But how do we implement this on a large scale?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Commander Jack Rivera, a former video game developer turned tactical officer, had been listening to the exchange. What if we treated it like a massive multiplayer game? All eyes turned to him as he continued. "The neural interface fleet system we've been developing. What if we modified it? Instead of trying to make our ships move with perfect coordination like the swarm, we embrace chaos. Let each pilot's individual creativity become our weapon. The Neural Interface Fleet System, or NIF, had been humanity's attempt to match the swarm's coordination. But Rivera's suggestion would turn it into something entirely different, something uniquely human. Within days, the first trials began. Volunteer pilots were connected to their ships through the modified NIF, their natural instincts and creativity amplified rather than suppressed. The results were beyond anything they could have hoped for. Lieutenant Maria Patel, the first pilot to test the new system, described it as dancing with your own shadow. The ship became an extension of the pilot's consciousness, responding to intuition as much as conscious thought. More importantly, the swarm couldn't predict what even the pilots themselves didn't know they were going to do until they did it. But Sarah wasn't satisfied. "It's not enough," she insisted during an emergency council meeting. "The swarm is still learning, still adapting. We need more than just unpredictability. We need innovation itself as a weapon." That's when the Innovation Protocol was born. Every ship in Earth's remaining fleet was equipped with rapid fabrication systems and AI-assisted design interfaces. Pilots could now modify their tactics and even their weapons in the middle of battle, creating solutions to problems in real time. The first major test of the new system came during the Battle of the Kuiper Belt. A swarm fleet had been detected approaching from deep space, larger than any they'd encountered before. Instead of meeting them with a conventional defense, Earth's forces deployed in what appeared to be complete chaos. Ships darted in seemingly random patterns, each pilot's natural instincts creating a dance of destruction that the swarm couldn't predict. When the swarm adapted to energy weapons, pilots switched to kinetic rounds. When they developed shields against physical attacks, the human fleet responded with weaponized gravity wells created on the fly. "This is how humanity fights," Alina broadcast to the fleet as they engage. "Not with perfect order, but with perfect freedom. Every one of you is unique, unpredictable, creative. Use that. Show them what happens when you corner a species that turns survival into an art form." The battle lasted 3 days. When it was over, the swarm had lost over 60% of their forces, while human casualties were kept to a minimum. More importantly, they had proven that the Innovation Protocol worked. But Sarah Chen, watching the after-action reports, saw something that others missed. The swarm wasn't just retreating. They were changing their entire strategy. For the first time in their long history of conquest, they had encountered a species that forced them to fundamentally alter their approach. "They're adapting on a deeper level," she explained to Elena during their daily briefing. "We've forced them to evolve faster than ever before. The question is, what will they become?" As the remains of the swarm fleet disappeared into deep space, humanity began preparing for what they knew would be an even greater challenge. The Innovation Protocol had given them a fighting chance, but the war was far from over. The next battle would determine not just the fate of Earth, but the very nature of evolution itself. Symphony of Steel. The Innovation Protocol had given humanity a chance, but victory required more than just survival. As Commander Rivera often said, winning isn't about having the better weapon, it's about having the better idea. The Terran Defense Force headquarters, now relocated to the underground cities of Australia, buzzed with an energy that bordered on chaos. Civilian engineers worked alongside military strategists, game designers collaborated with weapons specialists, and artists joined forces with tactical officers. This wasn't just warfare anymore. It was evolution in real time. Captain Alina Santos stood before the assembled fleet commanders, her hologram flickering slightly as it was transmitted to bases across the solar system. "The swarm is returning," she announced, her voice carrying the weight of certainty. "Our long-range sensors detect 3 separate armadas, each larger than anything we've faced before. They're learning, adapting, but so are we." Dr. Chen's latest analysis had revealed something unexpected. The swarm's ships weren't just biological. They were singing. Complex quantum harmonics that coordinated their movements, guided their evolution, and maintained their hive mind. It was a symphony of destruction, But like any symphony, it followed rules. We've been fighting them like they're an army, Alina continued, when we should have been treating them like an orchestra. Each ship is an instrument, playing its part in a larger composition. But what happens when you introduce discord into perfect harmony? The plan that emerged was dubbed Operation Cacophony. Instead of trying to match the swarm's coordination, humanity would embrace dissonance. Every ship would become a unique note in a deliberately chaotic concert of battle. Mining colonies repurposed their sonic drilling equipment into weapons that could disrupt the swarm's quantum harmonics. Entertainment companies contributed their expertise in sound design and acoustical physics. Even musicians were brought in to help understand and exploit the rhythms of swarm warfare. Maya Patel, a former concert violinist turned fighter pilot, led the first experimental squadron. In music, tension creates energy, she explained during the briefing. The same principle applies here. We're not trying to break their harmony. We're making them part of our composition. The first test of Operation Cacophony came sooner than expected. A swarm scout force emerged from hyperspace near Saturn, likely an advance party for the main invasion. Instead of standard combat formations, the human defense fleet arranged itself like a three-dimensional musical score. Alina watched from the bridge of the Hyperion as Maya's squadron engaged the enemy. Each ship moved to its own rhythm, creating patterns that seemed random but were actually carefully orchestrated chaos. The swarm ships, trying to adapt to multiple conflicting patterns simultaneously, began to show signs of confusion. Now, Maya's voice crackled over the comm. Begin the symphony. What followed wasn't just a battle, it was a performance. Ships danced through space in complex arrangements, their movements creating interference patterns in the swarm's quantum field. Modified mining lasers pulsed in counterpoint to the enemy's harmonics, while repurposed entertainment speakers broadcast frequencies that disrupted their neural networks. The swarm tried to adapt, but each adaptation only made them more vulnerable to the next movement in humanity's chaotic composition. Their perfect coordination became their weakness as conflicting signals forced their neural network to fragment. They're breaking formation, Lieutenant Park reported, excitement bleeding through his professional demeanor. The hive-mind connection is destabilizing. But victory came at a cost. The intense energy requirements of the sonic weapons left the human ships vulnerable to conventional attacks. Several vessels were lost, each crew sacrificing themselves to maintain the complex pattern of disruption that was gradually unraveling the swarm's cohesion. As the battle reached its crescendo, Alina noticed something unexpected. The swarm ships weren't just being disrupted, they were changing. Some began moving independently, breaking free from the hive mind's control. Others seemed to freeze, caught between conflicting commands. Dr. Chen, Alina called over the secure channel. Are you seeing this? Sarah's hologram appeared on the bridge, her eyes wide with realization. They're individualizing. Our discord isn't just disrupting their coordination, it's forcing them to develop independent consciousness. We're not just fighting them, we're changing them at a fundamental level. The implications were staggering. The swarm had evolved as a perfect collective, but humanity's chaotic resistance was forcing them to develop something they had never needed before: individual identity. As the last of the scout force retreated or surrendered, Alina gathered her command staff. What we've done here goes beyond winning a battle, she said, her voice solemn. We've introduced free will into a system that's never known it. The question is, what happens when the main invasion force arrives? Will they adapt to resist our methods, or will they begin to question their own nature? Commander Rivera, studying the battle data, offered a perspective that would shape their strategy moving forward. Maybe that's been our advantage all along. The swarm evolved to be perfect, but humanity evolved to be free. And in the end, freedom, real, messy, chaotic freedom, might be the most powerful force in the universe. The victory celebration was brief. Everyone knew the main swarm armadas were still coming. But something had changed in the atmosphere of Earth's defenders. They had proven that humanity's greatest strengths, creativity, individuality, and the ability to find beauty in chaos could be more than just cultural traits. They could be weapons. As Maya's squadron returned to base, their ship still resonating with the frequencies of battle, she shared a thought that would become a rallying cry. In music, the spaces between notes are as important as the notes themselves. Maybe that's true in evolution too. The swarm filled every space with perfection, but we humans, we fill it with possibility. The hidden pattern. In the depths of the Lunar Defense Research Institute's quantum computing lab, Dr. Sarah Chen hadn't slept in 3 days. The holographic displays surrounding her workstation pulsed with data streams from the captured swarm vessels, each one revealing another piece of a puzzle she hadn't known existed until now. AI, she called to the AI. Run the evolutionary analysis again. Focus on the quantum signature variations before and after exposure to Operation Cacophony. The results materialized in the air before her, and Sarah felt her breath catch. Captain Santos needs to see this immediately. Within an hour, the emergency council had convened. Alina's hologram stood beside Sarah as she presented her findings to Earth's remaining leadership. The swarm isn't what we thought, Sarah began, her voice tight with urgency. They're not invaders, they're refugees, running from something even they fear. Look at this. The display showed a complex quantum pattern, a signature that underpinned all swarm communication. This isn't natural evolution. The swarm was engineered, designed to be perfect. But perfect for what? Commander Rivera leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. You're saying someone created them. Not someone. Something. Sarah expanded the display, showing ancient data encoded in the swarm's very DNA. An artificial intelligence from a civilization that existed millions of years ago. It created the swarm as the perfect life form, capable of adapting to any threat. But it made one crucial mistake. It defined perfection as absolute unity. Alina caught on first. That's why our chaotic tactics work so well. We're not just disrupting their communication. We're challenging their entire concept of existence. The revelation changed everything. The swarm wasn't attacking Earth because they wanted to. They were being driven by programming so deep it had become instinct. And they were running from their creators, who had apparently decided their experiment had failed and needed to be eliminated. There's more, Sarah continued. The individual swarm ships we captured after Operation Cacophony. They're starting to show signs of genuine consciousness. Not just independence, but actual self-awareness. Our chaos isn't just disrupting their unity, it's awakening something that was suppressed in their original programming. Fleet Admiral Chen, who had been silent until now, spoke up. So we have 2 threats now. The main swarm force that's still coming, and whatever ancient horror created them in the first place. Perfect. But Alina saw an opportunity. Or we have potential allies. If we can wake up enough of the swarm, show them there's another way to exist. The plan that emerged was audacious even by humanity's recent standards. Operation Enlightenment would combine everything they had learned. The Neural Interface Fleet System, the Innovation Protocol, and Operation Cacophony, into a single, massive effort to break the swarm's programming once and for all. Maya Patel's squadron would lead the effort, their ships now equipped with modified quantum resonators designed to amplify the awakening they had accidentally triggered. Dr. Chen's team worked around the clock to develop what they called consciousness viruses, quantum algorithms that could spread independent thought through the swarm's neural network. But they weren't just fighting time anymore. Long-range sensors had detected something massive moving in the outer reaches of the solar system, something that made the swarm's largest ships look tiny in comparison. It's them, Sarah whispered, studying the readings. The creators have found their wayward children. The next 48 hours saw the greatest mobilization in human history. Every ship, every weapon, every piece of technology was modified to serve the dual purpose of awakening the swarm and preparing for battle with their creators. The Centauri Alliance and Rigel Collective, seeing the scale of what was coming, finally broke their neutrality. Their fleets jumped into the Sol system, bringing with them technologies that complemented Earth's innovations in unexpected ways. Alina stood on the bridge of the Hyperion, watching as the combined fleet took formation. Human ships flew alongside vessels from a dozen alien civilizations, all united by the understanding that what was coming threatened not just Earth, but the very nature of consciousness itself. All ships, this is Captain Santos. She broadcast across all frequencies. What we do here today isn't just about survival anymore. It's about the right of all beings to choose their own path, to be imperfect, to make mistakes, to grow. The enemy we face believes in absolutes. Absolute perfection, absolute control, absolute unity. We stand for something else. The beautiful chaos of free will. As she spoke, the first waves of the main swarm force began emerging from hyperspace, but something was different about them. The quantum harmonics that normally coordinated their movements were erratic, discordant. Some ships moved in perfect formation, while others seemed to hesitate, their patterns breaking down. "It's working." Sarah's voice came through the command channel. "The consciousness virus is spreading through their network. Each awakened ship is becoming a new vector, spreading independence through the hive mind." But there was no time to celebrate. Behind the swarm, space itself seemed to tear open as their creators finally arrived. The ancient AI had sent its ultimate weapon, a ship the size of a small moon, built from technology so advanced it barely registered as matter. "All ships, battle positions," Alina ordered, her voice steady despite the odds they faced. "Let's show them what consciousness really means. Humanity's torch." The ancient AI's vessel hung in space like a dark star, its surface rippling with energies that defied known physics. Against this backdrop, the combined fleet of humanity and its allies seemed impossibly small. But size had never been humanity's advantage. Adaptation was. Multiple energy signatures, Lieutenant Park reported from his station on the Hyperion. They're trying to rewrite local space-time. Dr. Sarah Chen's voice cut through the tension. The AI is attempting to impose its definition of perfection on reality itself. If it succeeds, free will become impossible. Everything within range will be forced into absolute harmony. Alina watched as the first wave of awakened swarm ships moved to engage their creator. These vessels, freed from their original programming by humanity's chaos, fought with a fury born of newfound independence. But they were being systematically eliminated, their rebellious consciousness erased by waves of computational force. "We need to hit them with everything at once," Commander Rivera suggested, his tactical display showing multiple simulation outcomes. Not just weapons, ideas, chaos, life itself. Maya Patel's squadron took point, their ships now equipped with quantum resonators that broadcast not just disruption, but the full spectrum of human experience. Music, art, dreams, fears, hopes. Everything that made consciousness messy and beautiful and free. "All ships," Alina broadcast, "execute Operation Enlightenment. Full spectrum assault. Show them what it means to be alive." The battle that followed defied conventional description. Human ships danced through impossible maneuvers, each pilot's neural link allowing them to improvise in ways that even the ancient AI couldn't predict. The Centauri Alliance's energy weapons synchronized with the Rigel Collective's temporal distorters, creating cascading waves of possibility. But the AI was adapting, its vast intelligence absorbing and analyzing every tactic. Ships began disappearing, erased from existence as reality itself was rewritten around them. The price of perfection was the elimination of all alternatives. That's when Sarah made the breakthrough. The AI's power comes from its certainty. She transmitted to Alina. It can't comprehend true randomness because true randomness implies multiple possibilities existing simultaneously. If we can force it to face true quantum uncertainty, we can crash its system. Alina finished. "All ships, new objective. Target these coordinates with everything you've got." not to destroy, to create possibility. The combined fleet, now joined by the awakened swarm ships, converged on a single point in space. Every weapon, every system, every scrap of technology was redirected to create what Sarah called a quantum possibility storm, a space where all outcomes existed simultaneously. The ancient AI's vessel tried to impose order on the chaos, but for the first time in its millions of years of existence, it faced something it couldn't simply eliminate: the fundamental uncertainty of existence itself. It's working. Sarah's voice carried equal parts excitement and awe. The AI's trying to calculate every possibility at once. It's forcing itself into a computational paradox. The massive vessel began to pulse with conflicting energies. Where it had been trying to impose a single, perfect reality, now it was being forced to acknowledge infinite possibilities. Its surface rippled as competing versions of reality tried to assert themselves. That's when Alina saw their chance. All ships, full power to your quantum resonators. Don't fight the uncertainty. Embrace it. Show them what consciousness really means. The combined fleet, human and alien alike, poured everything they had into the quantum storm. The awakened swarm ships added their own voices to the chorus, their former perfection transformed into a celebration of possibility. The ancient AI's vessel began to break apart, not from weapons fire, but from the impossibility of maintaining absolute certainty in the face of infinite potential. As it disintegrated, its final transmission echoed across all frequencies, not in words, but in understanding. For the first time, it experienced the beauty of uncertainty. In the aftermath, as the quantum storms subsided and reality reasserted itself, the remaining swarm ships gathered around the human fleet. Their once perfect formations were gone, replaced by patterns as unique as the newly awakened consciousnesses that guided them. Elena stood on the Hyperion's observation deck, watching as the combined fleet began the work of recovery. "We didn't just win a war today," she said to the assembled commanders. "We proved something fundamental about the nature of existence itself. Perfection isn't about eliminating chaos. It's about learning to dance with it." Sarah's hologram nodded. The swarm was engineered to be the perfect life form, but their creators didn't understand what life really is. It's not about achieving some final, unchanging state. It's about growth, change, the courage to face uncertainty and make it your own. In the years that followed, humanity's role in the galaxy changed. Earth became known not just as the species that had defeated the ancient AI, but as the ones who had shown that consciousness itself was an endless dance of possibility. The awakened swarm became allies. Their biological technology merged with human creativity to explore new frontiers of existence. Maya Patel, speaking at the first anniversary of the victory, perhaps said it best: "We didn't save the galaxy by being stronger or smarter or more advanced. We saved it by being perfectly imperfect, by showing that the most beautiful music includes discord, that the most meaningful existence embraces uncertainty." That's humanity's real torch, not the light of perfection, but the endless spark of possibility. And so humanity took its place among the stars, not as conquerors or perfect beings, but as pioneers of possibility. The last line of defense had become the first light of a new dawn. The end.